You know, in our prisons in the United States and throughout the world, 85% of the people who go to prison come back because punishment doesn't work.
Harry J. Burry and Nancy Nelson continue their discussion about Harry's memoir, Maverick Priest, their enduring friendship and peace activism.
Now, if you wanted to examine me closely, is Breslin making a lot of money off the poor? And I'd have to say, if you looked at the facts in the last couple of years, I'm not doing bad.
And then, from our 1989 video archive, Gary Siebert asked legendary New York columnist Jimmy Breslin about his Catholic faith. Welcome to Democratic Visions. We begin with part 2 of Nancy and Harry's discussion of Maverick Priest. In part 1, Harry detailed his anti-war stands around the world, his friendship with Mother Teresa, his abduction by a gunman in Gaza, and much more. Here's Nancy Nelson and Harry J. Burry with part 2, the rest of the story.
There are so many somethings in your life. I want them to also know about the first book that you wrote. This is called An Invitation to Think and Feel Differently in the New Millennium. In this book, now Maverick Priest, you tell us about you and all of your beliefs and struggles and stories. This is a philosophy, a theory you present to us about life and how we might choose to live it. And you propose there are 4 precepts. Tell us what they are.
4 assumptions.
Assumptions, that's it, thank you.
That if a critical mass of people would believe and act according to these assumptions, I believe that we would have peace in the world. And the first one is that we're always in the process of becoming, in the sense of learning. We never arrive, so nobody knows the truth absolutely. When people believe that they know the truth, then they become a closed system and they don't listen anymore to anybody who disagrees with them because they already know. And so they don't have to study either. So, and if it's salient enough, they're willing to kill other people that don't agree with them. The second assumption is that there's good and bad in everything, and what we are doing now in our present situation, our present paradigm, is to focus on what's wrong, and we call them problems. And so we try and fix them all the time. And I'm suggesting that we don't do that. Instead of focusing on what's wrong, focus on what is working and enhance it and make it better. And the third assumption is that we're all one. Now, if we assume that, then we stop competing with each other and we begin to cooperate with each other. And when what's good for you needs to be good for me and vice versa, or isn't any good. And the final one, which is probably the most controversial, is just as I don't say that there is no such thing as truth in the first assumption, but that we never come to know it absolutely, completely. So here I'm not saying that we don't have free will, simply saying that we rarely, if ever, use it. Rather, we always do what seems best, and we're not free to do anything else. So that means there's no bad intention people. Nobody sets out to hurt other people.
I think one of the ways you've said it to me is that it is your assumption that we all do moment to moment through our life what we believe to be in our best interest.
Yes.
And you suggest that we are essentially incapable of acting in any other manner, even when from the outside it looks like this person is crazy, abusive, anything. You suggest that within them, for whatever reason this behavior exists, they believe, we believe, I believe, it is in their self-interest.
They believe that what they're doing is good.
And that, when you use the word controversial, when we've had talks and discussions, and we have for years, some of them very heated. I remember one night, a friend was over, and you and I get into it, right? And all of a sudden you're shouting and I'm shouting, and this poor guy is saying, I never saw anybody holler at a priest before. Poor Ron. But we have had these conversations, and this controversial element, people immediately pull out Hitler. What do you mean Hitler wasn't bad? And you actually will say he acted in a manner that he believed was in his own best interest. And therefore, his actions were bad, but he was not bad. You continue to say to us all the time, there are no evil people capable of evil actions, but no evil people. And you've taken a battering for that over the years, sometimes from me late at night, yes?
Yeah, any good parent makes the distinction between the child and the child's behavior. They may hate the behavior, they never stop loving their child. And that's what God does. God never stops loving us. There's nothing that we can do that would ever cause God to stop loving us.
I want to fast forward again. We've been like a ping pong ball, but there's so much. You just need the 2 books, okay? Think and Live Differently, Maverick Priest. It'll help, trust me. In 2018, actually you began in 2017, and a lot of people, myself included, thought, oh golly, there's Harry with this intense belief about peace and involving people, and he's going to go out there with a battering ram once again. And you made something extraordinary happen. You have given life to something that is going to continue. Tell us about the Twin Cities Nonviolence.
Well, Twin Cities Nonviolent is an organization that is working to create an environment in which the Twin Cities can be free from violence. And we started with a 10 days free from violence last fall, beginning with the September 21st, the International Peace Day. And during the summer, during those 10 days, we had about 70 organizations that put on various kinds of programs, lectures, some peace concerts, some training in nonviolence, and so on. During the summer, I went to visit the brothers in the 4th Precinct. They call themselves brothers, other people call them gang members. And there were 11 of them that I spoke with, and I listened to them mostly. But at the end of our meeting, I asked them to do me a favor. I asked them to protect their area and not allow any violence during these 10 days that were coming up. I said that I grew up on the north side of Minneapolis, and I remember as a boy, 14, 15, hitchhiking to Camden to go swimming, and even up to Brainerd, and Mother didn't worry, Dad didn't worry. And then when I was old enough to drive, I would pick up hitchhikers, and nothing ever happened to them or me. So I explained to them that I really knew the area, I knew the parks, Fowell Park and North Commons, and I said, the parents there want to be able to have their children walk to the park and go to school and not worry about getting a bullet. So would you help me? And the brother said, we'll think about it. So a week before the 10 days, I called my contact and I said, what do they decide to do? And he said, well, each brother is going to make sure that there's no violence in the block he lives in. And then on the first day of the 10 days, they're going to have a block party, and they're going to cook hamburgers for the neighborhood. And during that 10 days, they're going to be teaching the little children nonviolence. Well, I was blown away. Mm-hmm. So after the 10 days, my contact came to our press conference, and he told that story. When he finished, one of the persons from the press said, how do you know you were successful? And without blinking an eye, my contact said, no funerals.
Oh.
No funerals. We had 10 days, no funerals. We're going to do it again this fall. It looks like there'll be even more collaborators, and in between times, we're working with city officials, with the police. We're moving to make sure that from now on, there's going to be less and less violence in the Twin Cities. And one of the biggest obstacles to that is the belief, the assumption by most people that the way to prevent wrongdoing, the way to prevent violence, is by violence, by punishment. So our biggest challenge is to help people to see that that doesn't work. You know, in our prisons in the United States and throughout the world, 85% of the people who go to prison come back because punishment doesn't work. We need to change the way we think about how you deal with people who break the law. As we said before, they think they're acting in their own self-interest. So we got to help them see it's not in their self-interest to break the law. And we do it not by punishment, but by positive reinforcement, and from a religious point of view, by love.
You know, as you're talking about that, I'm reminded we all wore, didn't we, our buttons and our medallions during the fight against the Vietnam War. And I remember so vividly one of the buttons said, "Why do we send people to kill people to show people that killing people is wrong?"
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
You are 89 years old. You say Mass, even though retired, at various places when a priest has to take a vacation or needs a day off, several times a week. You drive around in a car that is pretty much a giant bumper sticker. I mean, how many bumper stickers do you have on your car? I mean, 20, 30?
I would like 20, yes.
Yeah, at least. And whatever social justice movement you want to talk about, it's there on your car. As you look back, I already kind of know the answer to this, and you know it bothers me a lot, because we have this conversation regularly where you say, I feel I have failed. I feel I have been ineffective. I think you had hoped that when you started this peace movement back in the 60s, that everybody would say, "Oh my goodness, Father Burry, those are amazing words of wisdom. We're going to do exactly the kind of things you suggest, and by now the world would be different." And when you say you think you have failed, those of us who have been enriched by you and know we are different, and we know we view the world differently because of you, become very concerned that you would even believe that. So as you look back on all of these years, and as you look forward, because clearly you have no intention of stopping, if dreams came true, what would it look like?
Well, I'm in a different place now. You might call it conversion. But it's Mother Teresa who really set me straight. And she said that it doesn't matter whether we're successful or not. What matters is that we're faithful, And so it's okay. I don't have to be successful. We don't. We trust in the Lord, and we attempt to be faithful.
Will you do something for me? Will you try very hard to believe you've been successful?
Okay.
Deal?
Deal.
I knew your mother and father. I've met your brother. I know your sister. Your mother and father were dear, sweet, extraordinary people. Not only are you a priest, your sister is a Carmelite nun. And she's been in the Carmel since she was a teenager. And she was the homecoming queen at De La Salle High School, and yet she went into the Carmel. Sister Carmela Ann has been such an important figure in your life, even though most of your life you never ever have lived together. And being in the Carmel, she doesn't even have the ability to come and go and see you. Tell me about the influence of someone who has dedicated their life as she has.
Well, she has had a profound influence on me because I always was assured of her prayers. So I received a certain amount of courage, a certain amount of maybe naivete in some sense, but determination to seek peace, knowing that she was praying hard for me and for all of us. So I think her being there, having my back, so to speak, as the young people say today, made a huge difference on me being able to act for peace.
The dedication in your Maverick Priest is written in honor of my deceased parents, Leona Cummers and Harold Burry, my sister Louise, a Carmelite nun who continues to inspire me, and my brother Frederick, from whom I never cease to learn, and to all peace activists, especially from 1965 through to the present, who I know have my back. What haven't we talked about that you want to tell us?
Well, I'd like the people to not lose hope, to have courage, to take risks, not be afraid. We're making a difference. Maybe we won't achieve everything that we set out to do, but we're making a difference. And we need to persist. We need to persevere. We need to move on.
We often have conversations about compassion. I think you and I are in agreement that that is perhaps the most human value that we can possess. And yet we see an extraordinary lack of it day to day in our society. What can we do about that, Harry?
Well, I can't do much about it, but when the Holy Father was here and spoke at the Congress, he mentioned the Golden Rule.
Do unto others as you
And the people in the Congress stood up, and clapped.
do unto others as you will have them do unto you. This rule
And what that
points
is empathy. It's the ability to put yourself in the place of another person and experience what they're experiencing. So if a person is joyful, you can be joyful with them. And if a person is hurting, you can hurt with them. You can suffer with them, and that's what compassion is. It's from the Latin cum means with, and passio means suffering, to suffer with. And that's what's lacking in our country as and all over the world, not just the U.S., but what is lacking is we are not able, or we haven't seen the significance, the importance of being able to, or at least striving to put yourself in the place of the other person and see the world out of the eyes of that person. And that's why, for example, you mentioned Hitler. If you could put yourself in Hitler's place and realize that he was a victim. His father used to beat him 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week. He was a victim like most of the people who are in prison today. If you look at their backgrounds, you'll find that most of them were people who were treated very badly and were unloved. And so then they behaved in a way that was incapable for them to truly love, because they didn't learn how to do that. So if we can put ourselves in the place of the other person, it'll make all the difference in the world.
Many people wrote notes recommending your book and about your book. Arun Gandhi, the founder, president, yes, that word Gandhi, the founder president of Gandhi Worldwide Education Institute in Rochester, New York, wrote, "Maverick Priest is the story of a remarkable man of God who in a very real sense devoted his life to living the life of a true Christian, a remarkable book of self-sacrifice." I'm guessing that you would never describe yourself as having sacrificed anything, would you?
No, I don't. No. In fact, I don't even like to use the word. I don't see me or anybody else sacrificing. I see us giving of ourselves, but it's not a sacrifice. It's a opportunity. It's a blessing to be able to give. And Arun Gandhi is the grandson of Mahatma Gandhi.
Just think, and he wrote on your book. Okay, here's the commercial. Twin Cities Nonviolent comes up in September of 2019. There is a website you can go to today, and it is twincitiesnonviolent.com.
.org.
.org. twincitiesnonviolent.org. You can see what they're doing now. You can volunteer. You can certainly become involved in all of the events that will take place in September. An invitation to think and feel differently in the new millennium. Maverick Priest, A Story of Life on the Edge. Both by Father Harold J. Burry, Ph.D., or as I like to call him, Dr. Father.
Thank you, Nancy, for being so kind and asking such great questions and being my friend.
I have known you for most of my life, and every minute of it has been a privilege, Dr. Father.
Oh,
A privilege.
God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And thank you, as always, every time you stop into Democratic Visions. Thanks to Jeff Straight, who met you, Harry, at an event, called me and said, gotta have this guy on the show. Keep the faith, friends. Keep involved. Keep watching Democratic Visions. And get Father Harry J. Burry's books. I'm Nancy Nelson. It has been such an honor to be here today with this gentleman and with you. Thank you for your time.
Harry and Nancy's entire 50-minute discussion can be seen on the Democratic Visions channel on YouTube.
People stand up and clap when a politician walks into a room, gives a speech, a governor or a senator.
It's like a...
Forget about it. The bum works for me. I don't stand
Jimmy
up.
Breslin never studied journalism in a school. He learned and lived newspapering in the press rooms, streets, and shadows of New York City. Our friend Gary Siebert sat down with Breslin in 1989. At the time, Siebert, a Jesuit priest, was drama critic for America Magazine, a Catholic opinion journal, and Breslin was at the top of his game.
Stand up, let him clap for me. I just did a full day's work, and my taxes are paying his salary, and he's got a soft job in Washington. He's got some kind of a title.
Welcome to America House in New York City. I'm Gary Siebert. In 1986, Jimmy Breslin was awarded the Pulitzer Prize for commentary for his newspaper columns. In addition to his journalistic work, he has written many novels, and most recently a play, The Queen of the Leaky Roof Circuit. Jimmy Breslin is also a Catholic. Welcome, Jimmy, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
You've said in one or two of the things that you wrote that there are two things that you have to learn by rote: grammar and religion.
Absolutely.
And what I understand grammar because the nuns taught me grammar. But what about religion? How can religion be the same way?
Sometimes we were just saying before, you do get jolted. I learned everything in grammar school. I guess I stopped there. I mean, that was my essential training in grammar and in religion.
But a lot of your classmates at that Blessed Sacrament School in Queens learned the same thing by rote, and they don't do what you do. How do you account for that?
Let's tell the truth here. I've done pretty well financially doing it too. Now, if you wanted to examine me closely, is Breslin making a lot of money off the poor? And I'd have to say, if you looked at the facts in the last couple of years, I'm not doing bad.
Right.
So, but then I would have to sit down over a drink and say, well, I was doing this for a lot less money. I was always doing it. And also, there's other thing you got to tell yourself. The truth is, the poor have the best stories. I can't think of anything more boring than to write about the middle class. Wow. the language. Say, like a woman told us the other night that when they turn the lights off in a city shelter, the minute the lights are turned off and it gets dark, Mickey and Minnie be running across my feet. Now, you cannot get language usage like this in a white place. So you could also say that I'm going there to make the case that I'm going there because it's the best story. I'm doing that by my training. But then I would just have to go back to the beginnings. No, I always did go, and I think that comes directly from something as mundane as the life of Christ when you're being taught it when you're in a grammar school.
Yeah.
I mean, just if you follow that by rote, I think you're doing pretty good. Why question that?
Right. In all the misery that you see, not your misery.
Yeah.
Has anything really challenged your faith in God and what you learned by rote?
No. There you have to believe that there is you just have to tell yourself that there's got to be a wisdom that we don't understand that's allowing this to go on every day. I don't know what it is. I'm going to believe in it. But I'm going to tell you something. There better be a reason for this because this is murder.
Yeah.
I only know what I see. Bush, he's now the president-elect. He made a speech about the death penalty at a Catholic high school, a Middle Village neighborhood in Queens, New York City. And he had all these young women students, and they all were up screaming, "Yay, death penalty." He made a speech about the death penalty.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm looking at it. I mean, it's nuts. Number one, it doesn't work. Everybody knows that.
Right.
And two, what if you put the wrong guy in the electric chair?
Right.
I mean, it isn't even an argument. There's no sense even having an argument over the thing. They're screaming emotionally, and you know that it's nuts.
Right.
It doesn't work. Anybody can tell you it doesn't work.
Right.
And a mistake, but still to see them that they whipped up and it's always the Catholics who seem to scream the buzz. Why are they so bloodthirsty? I can't understand. It's a religion founded on capital punishment, and they want more.
Right, onto something that's... what you learned in grade school by rote and have put your thought and journalistic ability, you seem to stand for morality, which is a rare thing.
I don't think so. I think if you're writing, I think you're rather foolish not to, because it's a highly saleable commodity. It's very good. I believe, when in doubt, resort to principle.
Right.
So if you don't know what to write about, pick something, pick something good.
What image of God do you have? If someone says God, to you, you were a child when you learned religion by rote, so that was one thing. But now the Jimmy Breslin that goes into Harlem, that climbs tenement steps, you say in one of your books they never have elevators where you go.
Always up to her.
What is the image of God you have?
Yeah, I don't know. I tell you the truth. I don't know. That's a very perceptive question, because I don't have an answer. I know it's the same image I had in the 3rd grade in grammar school. Don't ask too many questions. No, there's got to be a higher power. I would think that you just cannot, if you start with the human body itself, it just couldn't have occurred. Somebody had to devise a thing this crazy that would work. And I just can't believe it happened by itself, so therefore there's something.
Right.
And what it consists of, I don't know. The guy better be forgiving, whoever he is, I'll tell you that. Huh?
Yeah,
that's the big thing.
That's the first one.
The number one. That means survival if the guy's forgiven. After that, we'll worry about all the other qualities. That's, I come first, here. Let's go. I'm worried about myself.
Jimmy Breslin passed away in 2017. Gary Siebert lives in St. Louis, Missouri, where he has been a communications professor at the University of St. Louis. Democratic Visions is handcrafted by volunteers from Eden Prairie, Edina, Minnetonka, Hopkins, and Bloomington. Watch us on select community access channels and on YouTube. This is Carol Sundstrom.